Hi everybody, Dave from road.cc. Electric road bikes, are they going to be a big thing? Let us know what you think in the comments. But Pinarello are in on the game. This is their Nytro. Pinarello Nytro, we have it in a SRAM Force build here, 6,000 English pounds to you. Pinarello, not the first people to get in on the road bike game. We've had a Cube C62 hybrid in, Bianchi have got a couple of bikes now. Cube have been doing it for quite a long time. So there are other people in the market and it is a growing sector. And it's different to your hybrid, your city bike in that you're not getting quite as much assistance from the motor. So it's meant to be a little bit less powerful, but also a little bit lighter. So what you get is a bike that you can ride when it's not under power. And then when you get to a hill, off you go, press the button and it makes it super, super easy. So whereas a city bike might weigh somewhere in the region of 20, 22 kilos. This bike you're looking at here with a SRAM Force build is about 14.3 kilos with the motor system. So, you know, it's kind of touring bike weight. It's not light, but it's easy to ride without the motor on. And then once you get to the hills, you've got all that extra power helping you to get to the top first. So let's have a look at the motor system. So the motor system in the Pinarello Nytro is made by a company called Fatsuer. They're German and the system is called Ovation. And it is unique among the main motor systems in that it is removable. So you have this bike with a battery and a motor, but you can drop the battery and the motor out and then you can ride it just like a normal bike. You put a blanking plate where they were. Look, I'll show you. Come here. Right, let's flip this bike up and you can see here, this is the motor system. So there's a gearbox in the bottom here, which always stays in the bike. And then this section here has the motor at one end and then a 250 watt-hour battery at the other. And it's actually quite simple to drop this out. So all you need to do is press this button on top of the frame and the motor and the battery both drop out. So here we have the on-off button at one end of the battery and at the other, you can see this is the drive system for the motor. And that is most of the weight of the system. So the system as a whole weighs about 4.7 kilos and about 3.5 kilos of that is here. So the bottom bracket gearbox weighs about a kilo. So you can actually take this, put it in your shed if you don't want the motor, and you can ride the bike without it. You can get a blanking plate that goes in there to fill in the gap and it rides pretty much like a normal bike. It's a little bit more heavy. So this bike without the motor will weigh in just over 10 kilos. It's a little bit heavier than you'd expect a disc road bike of this kind of standard to be with SRAM Force on it, but really it's not too bad. And if you're having a day where you don't want to have the motor, you can leave the motor at home and pootle around under your own steam. Now the motor, like all EU standard motors, is rated at 250 watts and Fatsuer say that it'll put out 60 Newton meters of torque. Now I've found generally riding these bikes that they're not as powerful as something like a Bosch mid-motor or one of the Shimano Steps series motors. It's more of a gentle assistance, but it's still quite a lot of power when you're heading uphill and your bike isn't very heavy. So on a bike like this, you can expect to keep up with people on the flat without actually using the motor hardly at all, really. And then once you get to the hills, people that you'd normally be sticking with, you'll be flying past them, it'll be brilliant. You'll never have as much fun on a road bike, I guarantee it. And you can't cheat at having fun, don't forget that. Now, the Nytro frame is based on Pinarello's GAN frame, and the GAN frame is based on their Dogma F8 frame, which was their pro-level race bike from a couple of years back. So, you know, you're getting some pro-level technology here. It's not made of such a high-grade carbon, so the Dogma would be made from T1000 carbon. This is a T700 frame. And they've made a couple of changes to the frame, to the geometry, to make it more suitable for the motor and for the people that are going to be riding with the motor. So obviously you need this big tube here to fit the motor in. We've seen how that motor and battery comes in and out. And they've raised the front of the bike slightly as well. It's 10% higher at the head tube. So it's slightly less aggressive, but it's still very much a road geometry. It's an aero road frame, so you can see there's a lot of flat camtail profiles down the back of the fork here, on the seat post and the seat tube. Pinarello claim this as a camtail as well. It's not really, it's just a big old lump. But yeah, it's a very solid frame and one that's had, you know, had some tour history behind it. In terms of the kit this bike's wearing, we've got most of a SRAM Force group set here, except for the chain set, which is most, that's Pinarello's own brand, because you can't fit a SRAM chain set to the Fatsuo motor. You get the double tap shifters, the carbon shifters, and the front and rear mechs there. We've got a Celi Italia saddle here, we've got most bars and stem, and then Mavic's Axiom disc wheels with Pirelli's P0 Velo coloured tyres. The colour, you can see, is this line here. That's about as much colour as they can get away with. They actually do a red one, so I'm not quite sure why they've put blue tyres on this, but there you go, those Italians. Using the Fatsuo system is really, really straightforward. You have a handlebar remote here, and in the middle there's a button which you press, and all the lights start flashing. There are 3 different levels of assistance. So you go all the way from white, which is the motor's entirely off. You go through green, and then to blue, and then to purple, with purple being the highest of the 3 modes. Now, all you have to do is pedal. The motor will assist you up to a limit of 25 kilometers an hour. So after that, it'll cut out and you'll be on your own. One of the things you find with a bike like this is that actually you spend quite a lot of your time above the assistance limit. So you're not really using the motor as much as you might think. And that means that you get quite a lot of range out of what isn't a particularly big battery. Now, this has got a 250 watt hour battery, and a normal city bike would have either a 400 or a 500 watt hour battery. So it's not as big, but I mean, I've been out on road bikes with this system, and I've done 70, 80, 100 kilometer rides, been fine, come back with plenty of battery left. It depends on how much you use it, and it depends on how hilly the route is. But actually, you can get a good day's ride out of a battery on a bike like this, generally speaking. So that's the Pinarello Nytro. In this SRAM Force build, it is £6,000, weighs just over 14 kilos. We're going to take it out and rant it around the Mendips and our other favourite places and see how we get on. So stay tuned for a review. If you've got any questions about this bike or about the Fatsuo system, ask them in the comments below. We'll get them answered for you. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more like this on road.cc. Thanks.